I've delivered your package. I'm John Anderson, 32 years old. I worked for a logistics company in New York, delivering office products for businesses. But due to the recession, our client companies struggled financially, and it impacted our company too. Eventually, the company owner, Morgan, who was already elderly, made the tough decision to shut down the business. And I, as an employee, faced the unfortunate situation of losing my job while still young. I was very fortunate that I managed to get a job at a bigger logistics company. There was even an opening at their branch in my hometown. Around the same time, my father fell and was hospitalized. Thinking about my mother's burden and being an only child, I had been wondering if my returning home was the best choice for my family. I ended up accepting the position at their branch with this new company, and that gave me an opportunity to start a new life in my hometown. In early October, when it began to get colder, I moved back to my hometown with loads of luggage. My new company was a major firm, a famous enterprise with many branches. It was quite a change for me as the company I previously worked for in New York was a lot smaller one with only 100 employees. The night before my first day at work, I got so nervous I couldn't sleep. Then came the first day with the new company. During the morning assembly, Edward, the branch manager, briefly introduced me to everyone at present and also asked me to say a few words. Nervously, I stood in front of everyone. Good morning. My name is John, and I have joined the company as a mid-career employee, effective October 15. I hope to become a valuable member of the team as soon as possible, but then I froze when I saw something. To my surprise, among the employees was my former classmate, David Smith. I was momentarily shaken. However, I managed to keep a smile and to finish my speech. I'll do my best to become a valuable member as soon as possible, and I am looking forward to working with you. As I was about to leave after my speech, I had a quick glance at him. David gave me a sly smile. It sent a chill down my spine, and I had to leave the room in a hurry. David Smith, the man I struggled to deal with in my entire life. He excelled in both sports and academics, graduated from a prestigious university, and stood out in our hometown. In contrast, I was a plain guy whose only trait was being diligent. We weren't exactly enemies in school though. Despite our differences, we were teammates in the basketball club, sharing both tears and laughter. After practice, my house became the hangout spot, and David would often come over. When he stayed late, my mom would even cook meals for him. But things changed a few years ago when we had a basketball team reunion. David, drunk, started bragging about his education and income. At first, everyone listened to him with a smile, but the atmosphere started to grow tense after a while. Unable to bear it, I finally said, "David, let's change the topic." I tried to sound as cheerful as I could, not wanting to hurt his feelings, but David looked deeply annoyed. "I've always disliked your self-righteous attitude," he said, "and you, a high school graduate, dare to direct me, a university graduate. That's absurd. Don't order me around ever again." His tirade against me lasted 10 minutes, and everyone else left as they were unable to stand it. Since then, I completely avoided him, and I even stopped attending reunions. And now, I had to work with the very person responsible for that trouble. Back home, I vented to my mom. I ended up becoming colleagues with David at my new job. Why did it have to be him? My mom replied, "David, he used to come over to our house a lot, didn't he?" I remember his mom bragging about him. She was telling us he worked for a big company and that he was sure to climb the corporate ladder. Looks like you're doing the same too. Besides, you don't choose your job based on who you like or dislike, right? Despite her advice, I couldn't help feeling down. And my bad feeling turned out to be true. As expected, David started behaving mockingly towards me at work, based on the fact that I only graduated high school and that I lost my job in New York. He would whisper to me when no one else could hear, "Starting over at this age? We're not fresh recruits, you know." I glared back at him in frustration, but he just walked away as if nothing had happened. Another time, he sat next to me in the cafeteria with a colleague. "After gaining experience here, I'm going to be transferred to another branch and climb up the career ladder," he boasted loudly, making sure I could hear him. I couldn't stand his insincerity and left my seat. And when I was nervous doing my first tasks, in front of other employees, he taunted, "Can't you even do that? Oh, right, you used to work only at a small company, where you never had to do such advanced work. High school grads are slow learners." He seemed to enjoy spreading the fact that I only had a high school diploma. Gradually, I started to dread going to work. But with my inherent persistence and seriousness, I clung desperately to my seniors so as to learn the job. I struggled initially with unfamiliar tools and systems and needed to be taught by my seniors. Of course, there were also many tasks I had to learn from David. So, no matter how unreasonable he was to me, I never lost my temper in front of him. Fortunately, since I was in the same industry as my previous job, I understood most of the work and learned very quickly. Enduring David's sarcasm, I gradually got used to the job and was able to handle most tasks within a few months. 6 months had passed since I started working for the company. A trouble occurred. A whole truckload worth of packages wasn't handed over to the driver, and we couldn't deliver hundreds of items that day. We received complaint calls all day, and we spent the entire day dealing with them. Edward and other superiors were furious. They were wondering who made such a mistake. That was when I found a note near the phone. "November 3, Truck 3, please arrange driver. From the office, David." The scribbled note was clearly in David's handwriting. Probably he took the note but forgot to arrange the driver. I hesitated for a few seconds, but came to the conclusion the most important thing was to review internally while we inconvenienced our customers. I couldn't let personal feelings for David obscure the truth. I handed the note to Peter, our manager. "This might be the cause," I whispered to him so no one else could hear. Then I went back to my desk as if nothing happened. Later, he went to Edward's office to report what the cause was for the catastrophe, and David was called into the office. Although it pained me to see him in trouble, I focused on my work. A while later, David, red-faced, came to my desk. "Come to the meeting area later. I have something to talk about, okay?" he said menacingly, then stomped back to his seat. His attitude made it obvious to everyone in the office who was responsible for the mistake. I knew he was probably just going to lash out at me in his frustration. I had no confidence in facing his tirade face to face. But at the same time I wanted to know why he disliked me so much. If someone else had reported it, he wouldn't have been this angry. Slowly, I headed to the meeting area, where David was waiting, clearly irritated. As soon as I arrived, he exploded. "What was that about earlier? Reporting my note to Peter. Is this your revenge for how I've treated you? Are you happy to embarrass me, a college grad, in front of everyone, you high school grad?" He ranted incoherently, raising his voice in anger. But I didn't stay silent this time. I was just following up on the cause of a mistake, and I would have reported it no matter who was involved. We may have been classmates, but now we're colleagues doing the same job. Instead of verbally attacking me all the time, why don't you grow up a little? I retorted, and David's face turned even redder, as if he was about to jump at me. If either of us made a move, it could escalate into a fight. Just as I was thinking this, we were interrupted. "David, isn't it about time you stopped this nonsense? You are terribly wrong." A voice suddenly came from behind me, admonishing David. David, standing in front of me, was utterly surprised, his eyes wide open at the sight of the person speaking. I cautiously turned around and, to my surprise, saw no one but Richard, the president of our company, standing right there. David managed to utter, with great effort, "Richard, Why are you here? The sudden visit by Richard caused a stir in the office. And the usually calm Richard spoke sternly, silencing the office instantly. Yes, it was rare for Richard to visit our branch for inspection. David, who was intimidating me, turned pale upon being overheard by Richard. Richard called us to the conference room. We knocked on the conference room door in silence. We were anxious about what he would say. Entering the room timidly, we found Richard had prepared lots of snacks and coffee for us. He warmly welcomed us when he started speaking in a relaxed tone. I believe, for a company, the most needed talent is someone who can earn people's trust. It's easy to know someone's educational background, but it takes a long time to understand if they are truly trustworthy. With that, he smiled warmly. Then turning to David, he continued, "That's why I want you to reflect on your actions from time to time. Think calmly whether your actions are earning you trust from others." And about hiring John, you see, he had the utmost trust of my good friend Morgan. Yes, he was the president of the company John previously worked for. In other words, John is here because his 10 years of hard work were properly recognized. Richard spoke on behalf of Morgan. My previous workplace wasn't like the current company, lacking even cleaning staff. So, I used to be the first to arrive at the office, cleaning and wiping everyone's desks. I was diligent and even took on the tedious tasks that veterans disliked. I was also a truly dependable person, well liked by both superiors and juniors. That's why I value John's 10 years of steady efforts. It has nothing to do with his educational background. Richard explained. I was holding back tears, deeply moved. Morgan had arranged my job transfer without my knowledge and had reported my work performance to Richard. I was touched by Morgan's kindness. And I was deeply happy that my modest and serious nature was valued so highly at the company. Meanwhile, David remained silent, still keeping his head down. It seemed Richard's words had hit him hard. Probably his criticism of my education was already an issue in the company. Richard had kept silent out of kindness, but David must have realized the gravity of the situation. After we left the conference room, David hesitantly said, "Can we go to the rooftop and talk?" I nodded silently and followed him. Upon reaching the rooftop, "I'm sorry for the disrespectful way I've treated you until now," David said and apologized profusely. "It's okay, lift your head," I sincerely told him, but he insisted. "No, it's not okay. This isn't just about what happened today. Actually, I've been jealous of you since our school days," David confessed. Then he started talking honestly about his feelings. Despite being seen as a man who could do anything, he admitted that was far from the truth. His parents had a bad relationship, and his mother was obsessed with academic achievement. He grew up constantly scolded by his parents, both of whom worked. David reflected back. "That's why I always envied you during our school days. You had a mom, always smiling unconditionally, and the warm meals at your place." Raised in a very stern environment, which could be considered as educational abuse, David barely made it into his first choice university, only to burn out completely. He somewhat safely landed a job at a major corporation, but without any enthusiasm or hope for the future. At a reunion, hearing about how passionately I was immersed in my work really irked him. "I felt like I had no purpose in life, but you had dreams and goals. That made me jealous, and I started bragging about the one thing I could beat you at. Yes, my education. I'm such a petty man," David admitted and then fell silent. He looked like he was holding back tears. Hearing that, I also opened up. "I was always envious of you too. I really wanted to go to college and be like you, wealthy, smart, and cool, but I couldn't become someone that I am not, so I just tried to give my 100% in everything I do." We shared our honest feelings, and we unexpectedly found ourselves laughing together. That's right, If you keep on looking at people who seem to be doing better than you do, there is no end, and the grass is always greener on the other side. All we can do is try our best with what we have. After our confrontation, David gradually changed his work attitude. He lost his careless manner, bragged less, and eventually became a respected figure at work. He was always a smart man who was good at his job. He rapidly rose in the company and, a few years later, got promoted to the headquarters. I was genuinely happy for his success. By that time, David and I had mended our relationship to the point where we'd go out for drinks together. While celebrating his promotion, David, laughing, started saying, "Now that I can talk about it, it's because of you that I was able to succeed like this. Seeing how well regarded your work was motivated me to get serious." He shared this unexpected revelation. Apparently, our colleagues had been praising my work ethic. I was known for excellent communication skills and also for not repeating the same mistakes. And being consistently respectful to everyone, I was being considered as a person of integrity. Hearing this, David had reflected on his own approach to work. He had been perfect in completing his assigned tasks, but never considered making things easier for his colleagues. I was always self-centered. I learned to be considerate towards others, and that was because of you. I guess I had a narrow view of life. David, looking a bit embarrassed, thanked me for helping him learn valuable lessons. But I felt the same way. I respect the effort and change you made to earn everyone's trust. I said, feeling happy and finding myself drinking more beer. We had both grown and were thankful to share a drink together. A few years later, my hard work was recognized and I became the branch manager at another location. Now I'm leading dozens of employees and working hard every day. My father's health improved, and he's now actively working again. The new workplace is just a 2-hour drive from my parents' house, so it suits me fine at this moment. Within the last few years, I also found a reliable partner, and we just had a loving son. From now on, we will be living as a family of 3. All right, I'm going. Have a good day. I will see you later. I ask myself every morning before going to work, have I earned the trust of those I work with? Remembering Richard's words, I step forward brightly into each new day at my new workplace.